Hello everybody and welcome to another One Piece chapter review, this time for Manga chapter 1012. The results for the worldwide top 100 One Piece character poll were revealed during the week, and so what the results kind of showed me is that people like Nami a lot more than I thought they did. That was something I learned, but honestly the biggest surprise for me was Carrot being able to crack the top 10. I honestly thought that Yamato was going to be there instead of her. So yeah, that was kind of like the biggest surprise for me. And I'm also kind of curious as to what you guys think of Kaido being number 65 on the list, and then Big Mom being number 86. And I'm asking because they are the two main antagonists of this arc that we're in, so what do you think it means that they're this low on the list? The cover shows Kid building a 3D metallic model of a bird, and Kid is actually one of the characters that I anticipated were going to show up in this chapter. And then, surprise, surprise, Kid actually doesn't appear in the actual chapter. And then also Zeus, despite the fact that he appears in a brief flashback here, he also doesn't show up in the present. And it's not like Big Mom is moving or moves during the chapter. She pretty much stays still throughout it. So I guess I just thought that Kid and Zeus were a lot closer to the scene than they actually are. The chapter starts with the Scabbard splitting up, and there's a nice sibling moment there between Izo and Kiku. And I just want to put this into perspective because I think it's easy to forget how long it's been since Izo actually left Wano. Izo has been gone from Wano for 30 years. So it's a pretty long time not to see your sibling. And so I think I'm glad that Oda didn't just sweep it under the rug. I mean, it could have been fleshed out a lot more, but I think for pacing reasons, Oda decided just to sort of give us one page. And so this chapter is literally the definition of a setup chapter. 95% of this chapter is setup. It sets up Kinemon going to meet up with Shinobu and Momonosuke to protect Momonosuke. It sets up the Okiku versus Kanjiro rematch. It sets up Nekomamushi versus Perospero. It also sets up Yamato going up to the rooftop to confront Kaido. So it looks like Luffy will be getting some additional help in his fight to take down Kaido. And then it also ends with Nami just straight up saying, no, Ulti is my fight. I'm going to be the one to take her down. And it also sets up Law going to where Big Mom is. And so I can definitely see him switching Usopp and Nami, possibly Ulti, away from Big Mom so that him and Kid can face the Yonko together. And one of the things that I'm most curious about this confrontation between Kid and Big Mom is I really want to find out what commander it was that Kid was able to injure back in Whole Cake. And I don't know if the cover page is supposed to be a hint of what's actually going on with Kid, but since his apron says 3D Path 99%, it kind of makes me think that maybe the reason why he hasn't caught up with Big Mom is because he's busy creating another artifact out of scrap metal. Or maybe he's collecting more metal so that he can be ready to fight her. So it'd be kind of cool if Kid shows up in the next chapter riding a giant falcon or something. At one point, Kawamatsu asks Izo what he thinks is going to happen after Wano opens up its borders. And Izo doesn't really give him a direct answer. I think that's interesting. That's a good question to ask Izo, given the fact that he knows a lot about the rest of the world because he's traveled the world with Whitebeard. And so I don't know if during the years that he was without Whitebeard, maybe he started building a network or reaching out to people. But then Izo also says, well, we can discuss this if we survive till morning, which could be considered sort of a death flag for him to some extent. I think it's interesting that it's Kawamatsu, the one asking this, because Kawamatsu is a fishman. And so we know that one of the requirements of becoming a Yonko or being taken seriously as a Yonko is that you have to have territories under your wing. And since Fishman Island is technically, Luffy kind of said, this, as of right now, this island is under my protection. And then if Luffy wins here, which he will, I think that he'll say the exact same thing and say, as of right now, Wano is officially under my protection. And so I think it sets up this networking system throughout the New World in Luffy's favor. It's just building that Yonko level political influence for Luffy, even though Luffy doesn't really care about any of that. He doesn't want to be a Yonko, he wants to be the Pirate King. His priority is freedom, not influence. But anyway, Bariete or Barit, whatever you want to call the monkey, shows up along with Shishillian, and they let Nekomamushi know that Perospero is on the island, and it seems like Nekomamushi takes off to avenge Pedro's death because Pedro was a guardian, and so Neko was in charge, or is in charge of the guardians, so I guess he kind of feels that's his responsibility to avenge one of his fallen soldiers. Actually, in terms of rank, Shishilian is the captain of the Musketeers. So the way it goes, it's like Inuarashi, and then under him is Shishilian, and then with the Guardians, it goes Nekomamushi, and then under him was Pedro, because Pedro was the captain of the Guardians. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that idea gets confronted with Perospero, about Perospero killing Pedro. Because the truth is, it's not like Perospero is actively killing these minks. Pedro blew himself up. And then, just with the fight against Carrot and Wanda, Perospero beat them, but he didn't kill them. Like, he just kind of left them there, fainted. So it's not like Perospero is a hitman and he's like intentionally hunting down these minks. I also really like how in the official translation, the monkey kind of makes a point. He basically tells Cat Viper, or Nekomamushi, that the reason for why he kind of felt that Wanda and Carrot were going to lose the fight was because their anger was getting the best of them. The monkey says, I saw Carrot and Wanda fighting him, but their anger was getting the best of them. That's why I had to rush back to warn Commander Shishilian. If I remember correctly, Perospero said that the change in the weather conditions were a pretty big factor in determining the outcome of the fight, because the full moon got blocked by some clouds or by some mist or something. And so that ended up, affecting the outcome of the fight. But if the monkey is saying that the girls lost their cool, like they got too heated, I'm pretty sure that they were so enraged in Sulong form that they didn't really pay attention to the moon. And so that's what ended up costing them the fight. I'm also very curious as to what Kinemon's fight is going to look like. Like if he gets a 1v1, because we know that he's going over to protect Momonosuke, and that kind of allows Yamato the ability to head up to the roof to fight Kaido. But I'm really curious, like, who is currently chasing after Momonosuke? I think Bao Huan was scanning the area and she saw Momonosuke hiding inside of Yamato's clothes, but I'm trying to figure out, like, who is going to go after Momonosuke so that Kinemon can fight them. Momonosuke starts reading his dad's journal, and I think one of the most important things he can read in that book is what Roger actually said to Whitebeard and Odin about his secret dream, which Yamato already knows, because Yamato told Ace that she knew what Roger had said. But then I'm also curious if Momo is going to find out about Odin and Roger going to Zou, and them kind of feeling uneasy in Zou, because like Odin could detect like a voice, pretty much like Momonosuke could hear Sunisha's voice as well as Luffy. So I don't know if that's going to lead to an answer or to more insight about why it is that Momo and Luffy were the only characters that could like hear Sunisha, just like Odin and Roger. But I do think that Oda recently bringing up the fact that Momonosuke can sense what's going on in the rooftop is super intentional. So we might get a pretty big answer in terms of why that is and how he has that ability and what that means. And then also Yamato going to the rooftop and confronting Kaido, right? That's going to start us on the path of getting more Kaido backstory. That is automatically a safe bet. It's interesting because the last time we saw Momonosuke and Yamato, Momonosuke was making comments about what was going on, what he could feel was going on up on the rooftop. And then Yamato and Shinobu were like, Momo, how do you even know that? And in this chapter, Yamato just tells Momo, hey, can you give me an update on what's going on with Luffy? So it almost seems as if the explanation was off-screened. This chapter makes it seem as if Momonosuke already told Yamato and Shinobu the specifics about how his power works. And so now he's reading the journal, and I don't know if by reading it, maybe something clicks in his mind, and maybe he is able to connect some dots, and he's like, oh, I understand something that I didn't understand before, and it's a huge major spoiler or something. But what I was thinking was, since we know that Kinemon is going to Momo to protect him, I was thinking that maybe ZP0 could be the one to track down Momonosuke. The ZP0 guy was talking about how special Momonosuke's artificial devil fruit power was, and so maybe they try and capture him. Maybe Kinemon tries to stop ZP0 from taking Momonosuke, and so maybe Kinemon defeats ZP0, or ZP0 actually kills Kinemon. I think that would be a good idea, because then that way they would kidnap Momonosuke, and that would kind of work to set up some end game level stuff. Because we know that the final war is going to be about Luffy and his alliance versus the world government. After the popularity poll came out, I started reading some comments about how there seems to be a disconnect between how much Oda loves and cares about the Scabbards versus how much the audience loves and cares about the Scabbards. Like, you could just look at the polls, and you know, a lot of them, like, they're not fan favorites. Like, some of them did better than others. Out of all of them, the ones that ranked highest were Kiku and Izo. So maybe that's why Oda decided to focus a little bit more on the siblings in this chapter. And then he also focuses on Nami, which, again, Nami was, you know, one of the surprises, her being number 3. So this chapter is also kind of like a Nami chapter. So maybe that's why, like, he decided to focus more on her, even though she still hasn't gotten her own Cab Burglar Nami chapter. But anyway, going back to the whole Scabbard situation, there's been some comments about how it feels that Oda has been shoving these Scabbards down our throats. And you just can't please everybody, okay? That's just not a realistic thing. That's impossible. You can't please everybody. But I do think that writing-wise, right, unlike Kaido and Big Mom, who also, like, according to the poll, people really aren't. I mean, they're feeling them, but they're not, like, super, like, excited about them. Unlike Kaido and Big Mom, there's still an opportunity for us to learn more about them. Like, Oda can, like, give us more information, like, you know, more background, like, via a Rocks flashback or something like that, and make them, you know, flesh them out a little bit more. The Scabbards, however, we know their story, we know their flashback, we know what they're about. So really, like, I mean, one of the things that Oda could do, if this is something that, you know, he wants to do, you know, he doesn't have to do anything, but I think one of the things that could increase the popularity of the Scabbards is if some of them die. But even then, even without the popularity thing, like, let's say that we don't care about popularity at all, I think one of them or some of them dying could, like, show the audience that this Wano arc, that this war to defeat Kaido took sacrifice, that the stakes were high, that they followed the samurai code and they died honorably in battle. Also, you know, one of the biggest inspirations for the 9 Red Scabbards is Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. So if some of the Scabbards end up falling, it would follow the theme of that film as well. I think having some casualties could be a really good way of highlighting the impact of Wano as an arc in the story, just like with Marineford. I really enjoyed the Sanji and Zoro scene in this chapter for 3 reasons. Number 1, it was unexpected. I think the most common assumption was that Law was going to be the one to take care of Zoro, but in fact it ended up being Sanji. So I really like that unexpected twist that it's like, ta-da! Like, Sanji's the one who has to care for Zoro all of a sudden because Law is running off to meet Big Mom. The second reason I enjoyed the scene is because it's funny. At first I thought that Zoro was, like, supposed to look like a cactus because he's green, and so I thought that was the joke. But then I started reading comments of people saying that he looked like one of these. So I was like, oh, okay, then maybe that's what Oda is going for. No matter what it is, I think the joke is that he's supposed to be referencing a green plant. And then the other reason for why I really liked this scene is because it's a very good reminder from Oda to the readers that Sanji and Zoro are in fact friends. Even though it doesn't feel that way sometimes, even though the fandom gets carried away with the Sanji versus Zoro debates, deep down these characters do care about each other. Even though Sanji gets angry about it, even though Sanji complains and actually kind of pokes, like, fun at Zoro, saying, like, wow, it's actually kind of a surprise that you were able to reach the roof, that you didn't get lost on your way there. Even with all of that, right, actions speak louder than words, and Sanji takes care of Zoro just how Law told him to. So yeah, it's just a really good reminder that these two people have each other's backs. And then another really cool thing is that, you know, up until this point, right, a lot of us were, like, speculating or debating, like, where is Sanji going to go to? Who is Sanji going to end up fighting, right? That's a big question. And so with Zoro, like, on his back, like, Zoro actually tells Sanji, if you want to help
go to the performance floor. Before this point, Sanji was just running around all over the place. Like, he didn't know where to go. Like, he would go to one place and then go to the other. So he was just running around. So I find it deliciously ironic that Sanji seemed to have no sense of direction. And it's Zoro who shows up and tells him, this is where you need to go. This is where you're needed. And it's Zoro who is known for being awful at directions. And I think that sense of irony is too obvious for it not to be intentional. That Zoro's actually the one, for once, giving directions, right? And so that's what needed to happen, you know? We were debating, we were talking, like, where's Sanji going to go next? Like, where's he headed? Who's he going to fight? And so now it's just so obvious, because he's going to the performance floor. That's where King and Queen are. So it has to be one of those two. And so it's very cool how Zoro's the one telling Sanji. Essentially, he's telling Sanji, you need to fight a commander, dude. It's time.
It is time.
We also have two doctors in the performance floor. Chopper and Marco were there as well, so my hope is that maybe they can do something to speed up Zoro's healing process. So I guess the only question I have left is, who are Izo and Kawamatsu going to fight?
We see that page 1 is trembling or twitching, right, with his head stuck in the ground, and we don't get to see his face, we don't get to see his eyes. So those two things, him twitching and us not getting to see his face, kind of makes me think that he'll be getting back up. And so I do kind of want to mention that back in Udon, when Queen confronts Big Mom just grabs Queen's neck, his Brachiosaurus neck, and just swings him away. No hockey, nothing. Just grabs him by the neck and just throws him away. And that throw is strong enough to push Queen out of his Zoan form. And so I think it's interesting how some Zoans, after they take damage, they kind of revert back to their human form. But then other Zoans, like, they stay in their Zoan form even after they've been KO'd.
Now, Big Mom actually asks page 1, was it you who burned down Okobore town? So if she's asking him a question, that also points to page 1 not actually being KO'd. And then also that same question kind of gets me to think that maybe Big Mom held back a little bit on page 1. Like, maybe she was like, I'll punch him with Conqueror's Haki, but I'll take it a little bit easy on him because I really don't know if he was actually the one who burned down the town or not. Sometimes I forget that Nami can be very funny, so I definitely appreciated the gag with her trying to get on Big Mom's good side, and then when that fails, she tries to get on Ulti's good side, but of course it fails too. So yeah, that was a nice little character moment there for her as well, comedy-wise.
I like how Ulti kind of pulls a Zenitsu to be able to catch up with Kumachiyo and break him. And Ulti actually has an attack in reserve that we haven't seen yet. It's called Ulti Meteor. She was about to use it against Luffy in chapter 983, and then Luffy was about to go Gear 4th, but then Yamato stepped in with the Thunder Bagua, and so we never actually got to see that attack from Ulti, so I'm pretty sure she's going to be using it against Nami. So Kumachiyo is on his side, and Ulti just doesn't let it go. Like, she just goes up to him and kicks him in the chin, and then she strikes Tama in the face. And this is the thing that just ends up polarizing Nami. It's the thing that forces Nami to make a choice and actually commit to taking Ulti down. And that's how Nami works, because that's exactly what happens back in Punk Hazard when she realizes, or when she finds out, that the kids are being held there against their will. And at first her reaction is very similar to what Usopp says in this chapter, which is, Nami, we gotta run. But then as the kids like scream out for help from her, like, she actually stops and turns back. And that's when Sanji actually tells Nami, like, it's not your responsibility to help everybody. And that's when Nami makes the choice. She says, no, like, I can't turn my back on these kids. I can't turn away from kids asking for my help. And that goes back to her childhood and how she was raised with Bellemere. Motherhood is such an intense theme in Nami's character. It's such a part of her character. So much so, in fact, that I can honestly say without a fraction of a doubt, I feel very comfortable saying that Nami will become a mom by EOS, by the end of series. Whether it's as an adoptive mom or a biological one, that's the real question here. But yeah, like, definitely she's going to be a mom. She's going to have a motherly role by the end of this story. There's just so much foreshadowing for it not to happen, and I don't want to overshoot my shot here, but I also think it could be possible that Nami is also a D. We have virtually no information about Nami's true heritage, about her bloodline. We just know that she was an orphan that was found in a kingdom. We know that the kingdom was being attacked by pirates, and so the Marines went in there to protect the citizens. And so if the Marines were ordered to go to that kingdom to protect the citizens, that makes me think that maybe there was some affiliation between that kingdom and the world government, because otherwise I don't think the government would send Marines into that place to protect its citizens. So Nami's home country became a war zone. And the most important part about that is that even though it was a really difficult, just a horrible situation, in the middle of all of that destruction, baby Nami was actually found smiling. And so we know that that's one of the classic traits of the people who belong to the D clan or the family of D. They tend to crack a smile when times are tough. And so it's Nami's smile, the thing that motivates Bellemere to keep on living.
Also, the name of the town where Nami is from is called Oikot, and the wiki actually pointed this out to me. But Oikot, spelled backwards, is Tokyo. And so given that we know that Wano is based off of Edo period Japan, and how much time and effort Oda has spent hyping this arc up, getting the fans excited for this arc, and how much national pride is involved for him in drawing this arc. If Wano is this important, I can't imagine a kingdom, right, that is named after Tokyo being irrelevant to the story. So I definitely think that Oikot Kingdom is going to turn out to be a pretty important place in the future of this story. And therefore that involves Nami also being more important, historically speaking, than we thought. And then finally, I also really liked how Oda uses Nami to contrast Big Mom in the scene. Whereas Big Mom is the tyrannical mother figure that is sort of protecting Tama because she got something from Tama in the first place, right? It's more of like, well, she did something good for me or nice to me, so I'm being nice in return. But I wouldn't be doing this if, I hadn't gotten something out of it, right? That's kind of like Big Mom. Whereas Nami, she's just doing it because it's the right thing to do. Like, she's standing up for Tama because that's the right thing to do, and she's following her genuine maternal instincts. And so that's why Nami beats Big Mom to it, because she's more decisive. I thought the chapter was fine. Again, basically a setup chapter through and through. I really enjoyed the Sanji and Zoro moment, and I enjoyed the Ulti and Nami moment at the end as well. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, guys, for all your support. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been having kind of a pretty rough week. Honestly, there was a part of me that didn't even want to make this review, but I pulled through because this is a story that, obviously means a lot to me. I like it a lot. Even when it's just like a setup chapter, there's always something good to come out of this story. So hopefully I conveyed that to you in this video. If not, I apologize. I'm good though. It's just one of those like normal ups and downs of life. And I think, the story teaches anything. You got to learn to smile when you hit those lows. I guess another way of saying the same thing is that you kind of have to learn to give yourself hope. And that's a skill. That's something that you kind of have to practice to get good at doing. That's where I'm at. Hopefully, hope you guys are doing good. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for your support. Take care. Bye.